Hello and welcome to another SSCAIT report. I'll be your host, Chubbo Swaggins, aka Jealous from Team Liquid, and today I have an exciting announcement. Sonko, the creator of Schnail, which is the StarCraft Human and AI League, has recently started an automated broadcasting system for replays from the Schnail database on Twitch. I'll make sure to include a link to the stream in the description below. Sorry, I meant stream, not scream. I'll also link the Team Liquid thread so you guys have another way to show your support. And as always, the Discord links will be in the description below as well. The replays are selected at random, and I've already seen some great games that SSCAIT report viewers should be familiar with, such as Cinders, as you can see on your screen right here, and Chaylin. My plan is to cast a couple of games from the stream and then go over some recommended replays from the Discord as per usual. This replay viewing tool was developed by Bytekeeper, of course along with Sonko, and I believe on the foundation of OpenBW, which is what we customarily, use to show you the recommended replays every week. And as you can see, the Fog of War is a major addition to the original OpenBW software that we have. You can see what the Fog of War looks like for both players as it switches perspectives. As you can see here, right now we're on Cinder's perspective. I'll try to use the mouse less so we don't see that that overlay pop up. But if you look at to the top, the little asterisk switches from one name to another when the perspectives change. And right now we're on Cinder's position. Before that we were on Dragon's perspective. The M is the minerals, the G is the gas, and I'll just show you, I'll just move the mouse a little. G is gas, S is supply, workers is self-evident, so is army. Now there are a couple of issues with the army counter once in a while from what I've noticed, but it's not that big of a deal. The most incredible thing for me is not only the Fog of War, but the ability for the camera to track the action as it's moving. You just notice that the screen moved there. That's happening live from the stream on its own in an automated fashion. It follows the action where it is. Of course, it does sometimes focus on some areas too long or move to areas where it doesn't need to, but on the grand scale of things, I've been thoroughly impressed as I've tried to start this stream with a replay multiple times, but then I kept, like stuttering or something when I read the opening message, so I've had to restart a couple times, and I watched some fantastic replays. So I do hope you guys, whenever you guys have a chance, you guys do check this out. Again, this is an automated system, so it's been running pretty much 24/7. I know that Sonko took it down for a little bit to do some updates. This, like a lot of other things, are a work in progress, so expect to see, there might be some downtime in the future, but if you're ever interested in hopping onto casual human versus AI games on Twitch, you will know where to find it. I'll bring up that overlay again so you guys can see the name here. Again, it will be linked in the description below. This is Sonko Magnus, and yeah, it's live on Twitch right now. We're watching the live broadcast together. This game was pretty straightforward. It looks like Cinders went for center 2 gate, or yeah, center 1015 gate, it seemed like, if I remember correctly, and that easily busted Dragon as soon as the rage upgrade completed. Holding against busts of this nature is one thing that AI have a very difficult time with, specifically because of the fact that the siege tanks have to be microed properly and the bunker has to be repaired right on time, which is actually something that the AI is good at, but it's just the sheer number of Dragoons that come in. AIs don't generally pull SCVs, and the replay just ended right there, and right away we are into the next game. One more thing you can see is on the top left here, it shows you what speed the replay is playing at. That was 8.5 speed to start. Looks like there was some it looks like the human player there had restarted the game, perhaps didn't pick their race properly, and right here we see V-Man versus Madmix T. Wanted to talk briefly about a game that I saw on stream right before I hit the broadcast button there. It was Cinders against Dragon, and it was top left versus top right. It was a 20+ minute slugfest, so there's definitely some high quality replays you guys can catch on here. And again, this is humans against AI, so in every game there will be one human, one AI, as far as I know, unless we have some cyborgs out there playing Schnail. And another thing that's really interesting, and something else that I'll try to remember to link in the description, is that very recently pro gamer Firebat Hero has started playing on the Schnail ladder, or maybe he's playing practice games, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it's well, either way he's playing on. And Firebat Hero, of course, is a fantastic player. He was one of the top Terrans during the Kespa era easily, and is still a very formidable player. He's played some fantastic games against Monster and other top AI like Purple Wave, so I will be linking a VOD of his in the description below so you can go check it out on his YouTube channel, show your support to him as well. So in this case, let's focus on this game for now. We have Madmix T coming forward with a lot of Marines, which is quite atypical in TVT, and I think we might see why in a moment, because there is that bunker there. A bunker can hold off at least that many Marines, if not more, and with the Siege Tank in support, that's going to be more than enough. I do see some Vultures out on the map, and you notice how the replay slowed down when there's some action going on. That's another thing, too, that I really enjoy about this. It kind of has like some sort of adaptive speed up and speed down. And on top of that, if you look at the mini-map on the bottom left, you can actually see what the status is of the player that is not currently in perspective. You can see if they're expanding, you can see where their army movements are, which from a viewer's standpoint is actually quite fantastic, I think. I wouldn't want to play StarCraft like this, but to watch StarCraft like this is definitely quite awesome. I feel like this is a fantastic mix of the two ways of watching StarCraft, because in standard StarCraft and standard standard StarCraft, in the replays, you can either choose to see, I believe you can see no fog of war at all, or you can see fog of war for one player at a time, but you can't see anything happening within a fog of war if you enable it. Whereas here, whereas on OpenBW, you always see the entire screen, right? But here you will see the fog of war depending on which player is currently being followed in terms of vision. Now, Madmix T has managed to encroach and contain VMAN. Now, this is a successful strategy in TVT, is controlling the map, because you have to invest so much more to bust an entrenched position than it is to hold it. So as you can see here, VMAN had a significant tank lead going into this, and Madmix T actually has the first Wraith out as well, which is helping him contain here. VMAN has a lot of Vultures, but they're not going to be particularly useful in this engagement. I believe they do 5 damage, or it could be 4 damage, and it looks like VMAN, realizing his situation, left out, but I think he could have played on. Anyway, move straight into the next game. We have Jokoso versus Proxy, Proxy being the AI here. I believe, well, right now it's showing the whole map, actually. As you can see, there's 2 asterisks, one next to each name here. Kind of curious why that is. Maybe it's because there's no action yet. Yep, there we go. As soon as we start seeing some action, we start getting that fog of war effect happening. And it's going to be, it looks like, I thought it was going to be a double expand at first, but no, it's actually a quick 12 hatch there from Proxy. Jokoso playing Protoss against Proxy's Zerg, so the 12 hatch does make sense. For a second I thought that it might be ZVC, and I was a little bit concerned. That's one thing that we are missing a little bit here, is that it seems like it didn't introduce us to both players the same way that a caster would. So don't automate my job away yet. Well, alright, don't automate my hobby yet of casting StarCraft. We're not quite there yet, but this is definitely an enjoyable alternative, and it's something that is running 24/7. Unfortunately, I'm not capable of doing that. Anyway, the Lings are chasing down the probe. The probe did get a scout off, but I think it would have been nice to keep the probe alive in there just a little bit longer. You always want to make sure to see if the Zerg is going for Hydras or Mutas. Seeing the second gas, you should probably assume Mutas, and seeing the second gas, particularly at that timing. However, we haven't been shown what the tech choice is quite yet. It is the replay viewer is intent on following the action. The Zerglings are there, and actually we do see Mutas, it seems like, flying around in the main base right now. Looks like they're poking and prodding and taking out probes here and there as the probes, run away to the third base of Jokoso. I didn't notice that. This is a situation where I think that those few Lings are kind of messing up the algorithm for figuring out where the action is. But we can infer it actually just by looking at the minimap. Oh no, it's actually a drone. Oops, there we go. Well, exposed, right? I thought that that was Mutalisks running around there. It's actually going to be Lurker opening. So I guess that's an example of a situation where it would have been helpful to be able to control the screen a little bit, and there may have been slight editing that could be done to this, but Let's see how this goes. I mean, with this kind of position with 53 workers against 31 for Jokoso, he actually held off the lurker bust attempt as well. Lurker busting is not quite conventional in ZVP. I would have to give the advantage to Jokoso here, although his army supply of 8 is quite low. I mean, he did get that third Nexus. Hydra's now coming in and going to take down these cannons, and Zerglings and Hydras are actually going to fare quite nicely against pure Dragoon. Even with a couple of Zealots, it's not going to be enough. Hydralisks are cheaper and produce faster than Dragoons do, and they trade quite nicely in even numbers. They trade even better when the Dragoon count is lower. It seems like Proxy, for whatever reason, was not intent on engaging there. Jokoso, I'm surprised that they're so eager to move out at this stage. I mean, it doesn't seem that they have Templar tech. Their cannons are down. I would be very intent on keeping as many as much of my army alive as possible. If we look at the mini map, we see that Proxy has taken that mid left base at 9 o'clock. So 3 base versus 3 base should in theory favor the Protoss, who is now actually up to 30 workers ahead. But Mutalisks being out on the map, and with AI micro, it could be problematic. The cannon's coming up just in time. Very nicely done there by Jokoso to stabilize. Concerns about the third base, however. I see that there's quite a lot of stuff there, but I'm not sure if that's going to be army. I'm sorry, if that's going to be cannons, or if there's just a bunch of pylons that were thrown down there in terms of panic. We see that the human player is supply blocked, and now we get to see actually a view of the expansion there. There is quite a number of cannons there, so this was a very greedy opening from Jokoso, delaying the tech and getting a lot of eco upgrades. Now making Archons to try to fight off against the Mulis. The Mulis are going to snipe the Templar. Very nicely done there. The Archon engaged against the Hydralis did take a lot down. Is he going to engage against the Mulis? The Mulis don't split. This is a very bad engagement for the Mulis. They took a lot of shots there, but they do end up taking down the Archon, but I don't think that they're going to be useful anymore. Unfortunately, we don't see the HP, and that's the other thing too, is that we don't hear the in-game sounds as well. But the Mutalisks, they should be very injured right now. They would not be able to engage against this Dragoon mass here, and keeping them alive so they can heal up is incredibly important. Just 2 Sunkens at the front. I don't think it's going to be enough to hold this pressure, though. Zerglings are popping out, but it doesn't seem that they're going to come out in any significant numbers to actually hold this. And yeah, it looks like Jokoso might be able to just bust through here. Maybe not enough hatcheries to produce from for Proxy. I see that a couple more, it seems, were added in the main base, but perhaps they were added too late. Perhaps the investment into Lurker and then Muta was too great as well, because both, while they're not exactly what you would consider to be mineral heavy, they're more pressing on your gas count. They do actually end up costing a lot of minerals when you produce them in the numbers that we've seen. And going for an early lurker upgrade off of 3 hatcheries as well slows down your economic management. So now this natural is going to potentially go down. The Mulus cloud looks extremely dense though. That's probably at least 1.5 or 2 control groups there. They're probably still injured from the earlier engagements, but it could be enough to hold on and stay in this game for a little while longer. Jokoso showing the humanity aspect now at 1,300 minerals. I mean, with 70 workers on 3 bases, that is to be expected. However, it should also be noted that Proxy actually has climbed up quite heavily in mineral count. That's probably because of the fact that it lost those production facilities in the hatchery and the natural, so it's floating minerals for a little bit. Now it's recovering a little bit. Will there be a snipe on the Templar? No, it looks like it's going for the Archon. It's not exactly splitting all that well, though, against the Archon. I would have anticipated more splitting, because we've seen how effective Mulix can be in the hands of AI that split them up. All the Mulix end up going down. Jokoso is going to steamroll now the main base of Proxy. 1.5 army supply against 81. Jokoso is clearly a very strong player, I think. I'm willing to bet that they are. One of the Korean players that have recently been playing on the Schnail ladder, there's been a lot of interest going into there recently, so if you've been missing out on actually playing the game, you've been following the games, following the AI scene, I do recommend that you check it out. I believe, and I hope that this isn't private information, but Sanko told me that they were seeing peaks of 50, 60 games played per hour nowadays on Schnail, which is an incredible number, and it absolutely surely is driven by the interest brought in by players like Firebat Hero, top former professional StarCraft players. So this game, I believe, is officially over. I'm going to switch to now going to the recommended games, if you don't mind. I believe that there's not going to be any surprises here. 173 supply to 22. The GG is surely coming in shortly. And yeah, let's move on to the recommended replays from the SSCAIT Discord, the link for which, of course, you can find in the description below. And we're going to start off with Krasio against Tsc Move here. Krasio spawning at the bottom right of Neo Moonglaive, and Tsc Move spawning at the left of Neo Moonglaive. Now, if you guys recall from recent broadcasts, you may remember that Tsc Move had a different race played. Tsc Move R played Protoss in the last broadcast that I was in charge of, and here we have it playing Terran, which is, I believe, its main race rather. Sorry. It's interesting to note that Krasio is actually going for 6 racks in the middle. That is quite extreme. Sometimes you will see in TVT the player place the barracks in the middle of the map, and the reason for that is because you're not really producing Marines. What you do is you produce like maybe 1 or 2 to scout and pressure with, and then you lift the barracks, and you're going to have great scouting of your opponent with a shorter flight distance. So normally what you would do is make a couple of Marines, find the base, and then flow your barracks over there to keep tabs on how many factories are being added, if there is going to be a transition into air. Small little engagement here happening between the SCV and the Marine. The Marines are microing away nicely, and the SCV micros away nicely as well. Tsc Move, Barracks just now finishing up, but given the strength of SCVs relative to Marines and the fact that the production has started, the Marines are being a little indecisive in terms of pushing up the ramp. I feel like it should stabilize here. Of course, 6 racks is also very economically damaging to the Terran player. We see that Krasio is not even mining gas yet, but Tsc Move pulling a lot of SCVs there, so that could lead to a little bit more of a equality in terms of economic output here. And there's actually a proxy bunker in the natural as well that might be a great way to abuse AI that haven't prepared for something of this nature. We do see the first factory going up for Tsc Move now. Marine count is climbing for both players. The SCV is attempted to be picked off, but no, there's enough Marines defensively, and it continues to make Marines, which is a move that I really like here from Tsc Move. Perhaps recognizing that it has been an all-in of some sort. Recognizing that it will be advantaged if it stays alive. Now, yeah, I was about to say this second factory, I wasn't a fan of its placement because of the fact that you couldn't add an add-on, but now it's actually going to be 3 factory, so maybe the liftoff wasn't even necessary. It's not adding an add-on, it's not producing anything. Is this a bug by any chance? Because I would have... Oh my god, it's going to be 4 factories? Alright, no, we need to get a little bit further away to add the add-on. Interesting. So with a bunker out of here, I would have expected the natural reaction to be siege tanks with siege mode, but looks like it's going to be vultures. And vultures, I mean, they can run by here quite easily, and a run by would be absolutely devastating to Krasio right now. Very low in economy, 7 workers behind, and actually the bunker's not even in range of the ramp really. But oh no, disaster. The vultures decide to engage against the bunker, and the bunker has SCVs here ready to repair. So many vultures go down, and this is... one of those yes, 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 no moments, I guess, where you think that, okay, these vultures are going to run by and then run straight to victory, but unfortunately that's not the case. I'm going to lower it a little bit because I think that the in-game volume is overpowering the music volume a little bit. Sorry about that. Oh, too much. I think that, I hope that's good. Sorry. Oh my god, he tried to place a command center and he lost the minerals for it too. Goliath's not coming out is basically every factory unit that you don't need in this situation. The SCVs are long distance mining quite safely though, and look at this. First tank out comes to Krasio, and Krasio, if it holds on to this position, could actually reverse the situation. It's actually ahead in economy right now. What an interesting situation. It feels like Tsc Move thought that it saw a square hole and wanted to put the square peg in the square hole, but it's actually a triangle hole. But now it's just trying to force that square peg into that triangle hole, and that mine actually connects quite nicely there. And actually both siege tanks get taken down. The siege tank does outrange the bunker even without even without siege mode, and it looks like the Goliath does as well when it's positioned properly. And now we have an interesting game on our hands. Economies are even, and there's actually quite a few idle SCVs for both players, so economies are not quite as high as it may seem here. It looks like Tsc Move will finally be able to place down that command center. Still no command center for Krasio, but I suspect that it might be coming up shortly. And now we're going to get into siege tank wars, and this is something that is really epic in the AI world. They can reposition their siege tanks at an inhuman pace with inhuman precision, something that you don't see often in the human world. And for that reason, I actually in many ways prefer AI versus AI TVT. because of the exciting amount of action that can happen on the front lines, the constant shift of the front lines. Currently, Krasio holding the advantage here, and that Wraith is coming out now too to try to apply some additional pressure. Oops, sorry about that. Unfortunately, though, it is going to be. It does seem like, sorry, that the Wraith is going to go down because the Goliaths already have range here. Siege tanks are trying to inch a little bit further forward. The engineering bay has to pull back. Only one siege tank against 3 now. A bust is in the cards for Krasio, but the question is how much would you actually gain from that? I guess you could deny the expansion for a little bit longer. Slowly inching forward. The siege tank wandered a little bit too far, but still no vision for Krasio here. He's only playing reactively here to the siege tank shots, it seems. No vision. Oh, there we go. Scan vision popping off. And let's see. It looks like these tanks are evenly placed. Very well done here. And actually, no, what that tank does end up going down. And Krasio slowly losing this position. Economy extremely even here. Mines are attempting to be laid by Tsc Move, and actually runs a Vulture out here. And there's a Valkyrie flying around as well, trying to deny these vision-giving buildings, I'm guessing. No, it looks like it's targeting the Wraith. The Wraith was doing some really cute evasive micro there. Now tracking the Vultures, and Tsc Move has successfully busted out. Reinforcements are coming in very slowly for Krasio. Only 2 factories, one of them very far behind in the main base. Now finally adding that 3rd factory, and looks like that is going to be... What is that? Is that engineering bay? Yeah. Interesting. 4 factories already up for Tsc Move and a 3rd base on the way. So definitely advantaged in terms of how the game looks going forward, but as we've seen, it can shift on a dime. This push is going to fizzle out as the push gets closer and closer to the production of Krasio. I believe that it will be more and more successful in retaining some of the position that it has here. Vultures are applying some harassment, but they were targeting a turret. I believe a run-in would have been a better option here. But nonetheless, the push is now continuing from Krasio and is going to get closer and closer to Tsc Move's production, and I believe we might see this tug of war continuing for a little bit, but again, it should be noted, Tsc Move does have an actively mining 3rd base now, 4th base on the way, whereas Krasio just now, Krasio just now finishing up the 3rd base and actually denying some of the harassment that was happening here. Has a slight advantage in terms of position towards the middle of the map, but it's very slight, and with this many siege tanks, I believe that Krasio is liable to lose this position very shortly. Siege tanks are inching forward to try to create that Marginal line. I believe I totally butchered that name. It's probably a French name like Marginal, something like that. Mason-Dixon line, let's call it. Oh, but it's vertical. That doesn't help. Oof. Okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm not gonna try to do history references anymore. Let's call them... Now I can't even remember what were the names of those lines that were in World War I, where people like were in ditches and then they would move forward. Oh boy, it's great. Like I watch, there's a streamer that I watch, and whenever they try to do math in the middle of a broadcast, they always invariably mess up it's something about, like, I don't know, it's like when you're typing and someone's standing behind you, you're always gonna misstroke. I feel it's the same thing with trying to remember things and trying to do math as you're recording yourself talk. I have to salute all of the people who have the insane gift of gab to do this professionally, but enough about me and streaming and all that. Let's get back to this intense conflict that is happening in the middle of the map. We now see also Tsc Move going out to 5 bases actually, and 5 bases now coming up for Krasio as well. This is turning into a fantastic slabber knocker here. The middle has been pushed ever so slightly forward for Krasio, but the amount of siege tanks for Tsc Move is stronger than the middle. If we look at the army supply, it's actually double that of Krasio's. I did not expect that much of a difference, but you have to consider that each Valkyrie is 3 supply. There seem to be at least 4 or 5 here. Each one 3 supply, that's another 15. That's away from your ground army. That's more army that can only attack the air, and in fact it's actually not doing so. There are prime targets here for those Valkyries. They just don't seem to be engaging, which I'm sure is frustrating to see for Tsc Move, this bot author here. D-Matrix is happening on both sides on the pivot tanks in the line, but again, the siege tank count is dropping. There's Vulture harass now happening on one base and a siege tank push on the other base, and this is just turning into madness here. We're seeing a potential air switch from Krasio as well, going for 2 starports over here, and the expansion rate has just not slowed down for Tsc Move. This is part of what makes AI so dangerous in the late game. Why you often see human players try to end them quickly is because you can't possibly keep up with 7,000 APM, which is producing army and workers in perfect timing. Yeah, sure, they might have some decision making or some micro issues here and there, but from where it looks like right now, this is a picture perfect siege tank line, and something that uh, and the kind of activity that you would see here is something that you would never see in a human game. So I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am here. It seems like there's still no Wraith production here. Our Wraith switch is in theory possible, but given the number of Valkyries here, it might be inadvisable, and especially given the fact that the Science Vessels are following the Valkyries around to provide additional vision there. Um, I don't believe that it is going to work out in the favor of Krasio adding those adding those starports there. The map has now been 2/3 taken by Tsc Move, which is a decisive lead in TVT. Gas is so crucial in this matchup, and being able to mine it long term is generally what determines the winner. There's not very many useful units that you can make without any gas in StarCraft, Brood War in general, and in TVT in specific. Yeah, just 4 tanks here. I think a human a long time ago would have unsieged here and started pushing in here, but slow and steady wins the race for Tsc Move, maintaining its advantage, doesn't want to take any risks that are too big, and is now claiming that territory. And yeah, just incredible performance, and actually not mining this gas, which is interesting. Maybe, yeah, recognize it's balancing its economy in an interesting way. I see that this gas hasn't been depleted yet. That's something to maybe ask the author of Tsc Move, excuse me, about. Again, in the Schnail SSCAIT, sorry, Discord, the link for which you'll find in the description below. I'm going to be posting a lot of links in the description for you guys. If you're hungry for Brood War content, it seems like now is one of the best times to be alive, to be honest with you. We got ASL going on, we got the Schnail ladder going on on Twitch. It's just a fantastic time to be a StarCraft fan. And there's a surprising number of SCVs moving around here. That's quite interesting. Usually you use those to bust entrenched siege tank positions. So you would run your SCVs in. The siege tanks would fire their first volley. That allows you to get in and siege up in time to trade volleys. But in this case, it doesn't seem to be the case. SCVs seem to be unsure of how to get to their command center. I think that might be the contributing cause here. But either way, pressure coming in from all sides now for Tsc Move. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit because I do think that the writing is on the wall, and we do have some more fantastic games to get to for this broadcast. I'm just going to watch this little inch. I even see battle cruisers out on the map. This is when race might have been useful. This is, in fact, something that we saw in the pro gaming scene, you know, back in the Kespa era, especially in the mid 2000s. It would be quite popular for one player to go for Goliath, the other to go battle cruisers, because of maps that were, you know, heavily terrained, if that makes sense. Like like I think Rush Hour 3 is a good example of one of those maps where battle cruisers saw a lot of play because of the fact that there was just a lot of places where you could avoid confrontations with Goliaths, and there was also, of course, the Wraiths beat the battle cruisers, the Valkyries beat the Wraiths, and the battle cruisers beat the Valkyries. It's one of those famous triangles that really forces you to keep tabs on what your opponent is doing and balance your army accordingly. And now that I'm looking at it, it's actually maybe because of the fact that there's such a thin perimeter here. The army composition from Tsc Move, even though it has 107 supply, I'm struggling to see where that supply is. Great mine coverage, by the way, but yeah, I don't see where that army could be. There doesn't seem to be all that much of it on our screens. And actually now Krasio leading. I'm going to slow this back down. Krasio leading in. Okay, I take it back. Army supply now firmly in Tsc Move's favor. Maybe it was just in between macro rounds here. The siege tanks appeared out of nowhere here and are now continuing to push to the front. Maybe they were handling some conflict down here at some point. And yeah, this is basically an unwinnable position, unfortunately, for Krasio. Krasio has almost completely mined out. This is the last mineral patch available, and with the production gone, there will not be any resupply, and with Tsc Move so far ahead in both economy and army, yeah, I'm going to speed it back up again. I was just confused for a moment what was happening, where the army was. Battle cruisers in production, one marine in production for Krasio with his last 52 minerals, and as we hear a marine die, that might have been the last dying breath of Krasio in this game. Let's speed up a little bit through the cleanup. I want to see how this gets pushed back eventually. Yeah, it seems like it's going to be whittled down slowly but surely with advancing siege tank lines. Nicely done there. And yeah, that is going to be GG. I'm going to move on to the next game. It's going to be another Krasio game. Krasio spawning at the bottom left as the orange Terran on Fighting Spirit against Steamhammer spawning as the white Zerg at the top right. Spawning as the white Zerg, scouting in this direction, which I think in general, I feel like that might be the less preferred one, not just because of the fact that you go to the main, so you don't know if they expanded, but in this map in particular, when you check this way, there's a way to escape. So, for example, let's say you see a building here. If you escape using this back area of their base, and then the Overlord kind of tracks to over here, it can park over here outside of range of Marines and track a little bit of vision of the ramp to see when the army is moving in and out. But it's not going to be a huge deal here. Opening with a supply depot is Krasio in a position that I don't quite understand, I think. Yeah, generally you would place that behind the middle line to prevent Zerglings from running around, and I think that maybe the Twitch stream is slowing my computer down a little bit, so I'm going to close that out. So I was planning on leaving it running while I do my outro of sorts. It's actually going to be a fast command center. What? A cancelled fast command center? Oh, it's because it reacted to the fast pool and layer build. This is interesting. This is a great adaptation from Krasio. I mean, it did end up losing those minerals. Perhaps could have waited to see what Steamhammer is doing before investing into the command center to avoid losing those minerals. I think that that would have been the preferable course. And I actually don't know why it's chopping up a little bit now at this point, but hopefully you guys are seeing everything smoothly on your screens. SCV's running forward. They're trying to set up this bunker. The Marines are running in. It's actually a Spire already coming up. Fun fact, I think that with such a low eco situation, I mean, obviously getting Mutalisks is still going to be dangerous. Not a couple of Mutalisks, not that dangerous, but it's a situation where I think that the Terran could consider placing a bunker somewhere in their mineral line to supplement their anti-air defenses, at least before the turrets come up. Now the question is, will Krasio be aware of the fact that it's Mutalisk? Of course, the reactions to Mutalisk and Lurkers is vastly different. Against Lurkers, you generally want to pressure the Zerg as much as possible to slow down the advancement of the Lurkers. Against Mutalisks, you have to keep your army at home in order to defend against the threat to your mineral line. So in this case, it's going to be interesting to see what Krasio does. So far, it's been neither, and actually, it's Aspire and a Hydralist, and this is just a mind-boggling build to me now. As soon as the comsat comes up, if I had a comsat and I scanned this, I would be so incredibly confused. And actually, it is something that I've seen happen in. I don't think it's happened as much in pro games, though I'm pretty sure it has happened, but you kind of fake out your opponent by doing both buildings. You have to rely on information such as, you know, when the second gas timing is, or sometimes what they would do is they would actually cancel the Hydralist then after it's scouted and throw down a Spire, or vice versa, which is great mind games for the Zerg player. A surprise being such a huge factor, and the Mutalisks are now in on the mineral line here. The Marines are being pulled back to deal with it. It's only 2 Mutalisks, I think, at this moment. Yes, indeed. 2 Mutalisks are not going to be able to fight against even 6 Marines, I believe. But actually, they're doing quite well. It's because of the pressure from the Zerglings at the front. Great multitasking, quote-unquote, from Steamhammer here to keep the forces divided. Finally, turrets coming up in the mineral line for Steamhammer. I'm sorry, for Krasio. I think it might have been a good choice to go for delaying the turrets to know where the placement would be optimal. Even has one next to the bunker, though, in case the Lurker did try to run up there. But contained on one base is Krasio, and Steamhammer now on two bases, but it should be noted that the economy is still in Krasio's favor. Krasio doing a sneaky expansion here and adding a turret right away with another Comsat station. Has managed to secure its natural. It seems like the SCV is trying to migrate to the expansion. Steamhammer not recognizing that these SCVs are indicative of something suspicious going on, and actually failing to take down any. I'm quite curious about this behavior. I don't know why they would choose not to engage here. Hydralisk now moving forward, potentially going to be making lurkers right here, right now. I'm going to see if I have anything else running that I can close down so I can try to minimize the amount of lag that we're seeing here. 1 second. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. Hopefully that helps. No, it did not. So I don't really know what's going on here, so I'm sorry about that, guys. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully my computer's not melting right now. And the Mules, yeah, they're just not choosing to engage here. The Goliath, the Marine, the turret, they're quite far away. There's still some pickings to be had. I feel like it could take down this depot, for example. It could pick off any Goliaths that decide to wander too closely to the Mules when they're in this number. 6 Mules can take down one Goliath, I think, quite comfortably. It's going to be a mech build, actually, from Krasio. 3 factories up right now on 2 bases. And think about it, if some Zerglings ran in here, how sweet would that be for the Zerg player? I'm not sure if he's actually even aware of it, even though he's had enough information to indicate it. Looks like I was wrong about it being lurkers, by the way. I mean, Hydra Muta is a very nice way to deal with mech. Unfortunately, what it requires is for you to have quite a number of bases, especially more bases than the Terran player. The Terran player is slowly inching forward and looks to be intent on taking its natural base to bring itself up to 3 bases against the 2 for Zerg. The early layer, I don't think quite paid off. Steamhammer still, in terms of worker count, quite low compared to Krasio, but now applying pressure at the front. The Hydralisks arrive here, but perhaps a little bit too late. The army was still up here just a moment ago before that natural was taken, but now this base is going to be very difficult to approach. That being said, the Goliaths do get taken out. The Hydralisks are coming into the 3rd base now. Looks like they're going to apply some pressure. SCVs are going to go down soon. Turrets are going down. Siege tank has sieged up on the ramp here. Well done. Maybe it's... And yeah, I mean, barely holding on is Krasio there at that 3rd base, actually managing to repair that Comsat station as well, and this turret very nicely done, catching it right before it burns down. That's going to help it defend its base a little bit longer. 3rd base just now coming up for Krasio. As we see, there was an annoying vulture harassing as well, but by this point, when the Terran's on 3 bases, I mean, granted the fact that Krasio is only on 4 factories, normally at this stage of the game you would almost expect to see at least 6 or 7 factories from the meching player, but in Krasio's in Steamhammer's shoes, you want to be on 5 or 6 bases at this point. If you look at the mineral count, the worker count is actually catching up. Army count is superior for Steamhammer. It's no doubt buffeted by the fact that it has 8 Mutalisks. And actually, Defilers and Queens now out. This is going to be an exciting game. Defilers and Queens are both the answers to mech as well. Very popular approach, and with the kind of control that we see from AI nowadays, there we go. A swarm should be coming down shortly to help fight against mech, with not enough mines out on the map, and in fact it seems to be no mines out on the map. It's very hard to control space for the Terran player. No swarm yet, which is quite puzzling to me. Defiler does have the energy. There we go. It was waiting until it was injured really badly. There's another swarm. It should be an encroaching swarms going up to 3rd base, and this could be quite devastating actually. Hydra's perhaps not the best unit to have fighting under swarms. Zerglings might be a better choice here, but as long as it keeps the enemy units away from those swarms, it could be a good choice here. Siege tanks still do damage under these swarms, so I believe that... Is that the same Defiler, or is that a different one? That's a different one for sure. The health could not have risen that high, and now finally we're seeing mines, and this is fantastic to see actually, because this now looks very, very human-like in terms of what the players are doing. Hydra Muta with support with Defilers, even a Queen thrown in there, mass mines in the middle of the map to control space, trying to deny expansions, and looks like they were both trying to expand to the same place. That's actually what was happening here. The 5th base now coming up for Steamhammer, the 5 bases that I probably wanted a little bit earlier. Sunk here is keeping the Vulture at bay, but it looks like that drone, oh, it doesn't get picked off. Needs to place down that hatchery. Good job there. Good stuff. It's fantastic to see. Third base still being held strong by Krazio. Army supplies still ahead, but now behind in workers. Interesting. Supplies overall are just very even. Let's take a look at the production tab, and yeah, we can see now ultras being produced as well. It's a little bit of everything build from Steamhammer here. It seems like Steamhammer should be successful with this approach, I believe, especially considering the fact that it's taking more and more of the map and has located the sneaky attempt at an expansion here. Factory being thrown down in advance of a potential expansion here, but now Steamhammer incorporating burrow tactics as well, something we've seen Monster use quite successfully in other games. Another very strong Zerg. The recent finalist of the SSCAIT tournament where it played against Stardust. And this mech push is fizzling out. I mean, there's just simply not enough mech. Mech is one of those compositions where you need to have the whole ball together all the time. All the siege tanks, all the Goliaths, and maybe a couple of vultures running around harassing and placing mines in various places. But beyond that, this is, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. Steamhammer doing a great job of pulling off this build after getting a sneak, allowing a sneak expo to come up, not doing all that much damage with the Mules, and now Plague being thrown down here. That's absolutely brutal and devastating, with the Swarm potentially coming in soon as well. There it is. Ultralisks under Swarm are going to absolutely Shrek the mech army, but unfortunately everything gets pushed back. The Defilers get sniped. Very nicely done there from Krazio to try to hold on. The Plague is doing a number though on the buildings here. They've actually been repaired by the SVs, but it is a money sink. Krazio not exactly hungry for money, but it should be coming soon as the main base is mined out and the natural is going to be mining out soon as well. Without any ability to take any more bases, and with Steamhammer taking the whole map, this is a forceful exhibition from Steamhammer here. Very nicely done. I don't think mech is going to be able to hold out much longer, even if mech is the strongest composition in the game. With the superhuman mechanics and the difficulties of positioning that mech brings to the table, I believe that Steamhammer has a commanding lead in this game, and I don't understand why it's like that. Really sorry about the choppiness that's happening. I have no idea where that could be coming from. Maybe it's just the fact that there's 25,000 APM and just a bunch of crazy stuff going on. I don't know. Let me just double check something just to make sure that I'm not going crazy. Yeah, it should be fine. Okay, sorry, I don't know. I thought that maybe there was a problem with my internet. In which case I would have stopped the broadcast, had to start all over again, blah, blah, blah. But we don't want to do that. Mech is actually now taking the middle of the map, and an expansion to the middle. Ooh, it's actually expanding down here. It plays the command center in a way that avoids the burrow Zergling, but the Zerglings are coming in now and bothering this expansion. Vulture is not going to come over and try to help. Siege tanks have occupied the middle. This might be the place to expand to right now, but is it too little, too late? Mines have been doing a good job of doing some stray hits to the Ultralisk, as you can see here. Boom, boom. Very nicely done there. More Ultras going down. Interesting. Where's that mine sound coming from? It looks like it was trapped somewhere. And the mech push is continuing, but there's just so much from Steamhammer. Army supply is heading for Krazio, though. Production tab does look better for Steamhammer. This is a really tight game we have in our hands. Steamhammer should come out ahead. There's not much gas left in the tank for Krazio here. It needs to take another base, but the Burrow Zerglings have been denying that. No expansion in the middle yet as well. This is a do or die push for Krazio here, and it looks like with the Plague coming down and with this wave of Zerg rushing towards the human Terran warriors here, I don't think that it's going to pan out. Army supplies now even, but with Steamhammer with a much greater propensity for production right now, and just really incredible gameplay from both AI here. It's crazy to think how far things have come. I played against StarCraft AI 5 years ago, and it was nowhere to near this level of control and proficiency. It's just amazing how much progress has been made over the years, and big shout outs to all of the people in the community who produce AI, who produce the methods by which we can view these games, OpenBW, SSCAIT, Schnail. Big shout outs to everyone for this. It's a really fantastic thing that we have in our hands here, and it's a great, as I said before, it's a great time to be a StarCraft fan in 2021. So yeah, Krazio is going to be mined out now, and there's not much left in it, as Steam Hammer continues to take the entirety of the map. And more engagements happening here in the middle. The Zerg army a little bit too spread out to properly engage against this, but this force that is there is quite small. Production has pretty much fizzled out entirely for Krasio, and that is surely going to be the game in just a few moments. There's not enough money for a command center, and there's not going to be a lifting command center anytime soon, it seems like. It's actually an infested command center. Yes, I love to see that. The Queen came over and took over the command center. You would want to see maybe infested Terrans being added here just for the BM factor. But yeah, this game's over, and I'm just hoping that the next replay window is not going to lag. So we have Hans Bredberg here spawning at 12 o'clock on Python as the White Terran, and he's going to be against Thomas Sarry, the Yellow Protoss, spawning at the 1 o'clock, yeah, let's say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock base on Python. So on this map, these positions were actually quite interesting, partially because of the fact that Terran could opt for a situation where they expand to the island, or low ground contained area, I guess you could call it, with a dropship. Because of the fact that the mineral is there, you can place down the command center. Let me make sure that the volume is lowered appropriately. And what you do is you kind of do like a siege tank push from low ground to high ground using the dropship as well. So you kind of like, you can set up your siege tanks here, and then you can drop siege tanks here and slowly push into the Protoss base. The Protoss base goes into what is known as Renegade Toss mode, when they kind of just try to take bases around the map and survive that way. As their main and their gateways and their technology is taken out, they start throwing down technology and production facilities all around the map. Not going to be the case here though. Hans Bredberg going for, it looks like a 15 CC, yes indeed, after opening with the barracks. Meanwhile, Thomas Sarry, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, by the way, opened with a single Zealot into a Nexus, which is generally an economically advantaged build, but as we can see in this production tab right here, the command center is actually going to come up first, so that is a economic lead for Hans Bredberg going into it. However, if for those of you who have seen some of our recent uploads, you guys may remember Hans Bredberg as the mad nuker of the AI scene, and or at least one of them. I do know that there were other developers who said that they had incorporated nuke builds into their play. In this case, Hans Bredberg is by far one of the most prolific nukers that I've seen in the AI scene. So it's going to be interesting to see if we're going to get to any nukes in this game. Already applying pressure with Marines, and the fact that it's going M&M in the first place is a little bit questionable. I mean, 3 Zealots out is going to be well more than enough to push back the 5 Marines that are here, 6 Marines even. And actually the probe just now going out to scout again to see what's going on. Seeing the Marine count rise should be an indicator of the fact that Marine production is continuing, of course, and perhaps an indicator of the fact that actually it could be an indicator of a timing push. The 2 base 6 racks, 2 fac, it's called the Deep 6, something that you might see here, but normally that starts off with siege tank production going into the bio later. So even if I was a human, I would be a little bit confused. Well, I am a human, sorry. Even as a human player, I would be confused if I encountered this kind of composition, and I'd feel, oh great, my Zealots can wreck that. Little known fact, Zealots are great in the early stages against M&M, but later on when medics and fire bats are added, Zealots quickly lose their effectiveness, especially against big clumps of M&M. You need to keep your M&M army together, but that's also the reason why Storm is so proficient against M&M armies, and in this case Reavers fare quite nicely as well too. But the AI world, the rules are completely different. Why? Because we have AI that are capable of insane splitting, and things like properly positioning Reavers, properly casting Storms is a little bit more, I don't want to say more difficult, but it is difficult. It's more difficult for AI than it is for us humans to do, to instantly assess a situation. And look at this insane pressure. I believe that Thomas definitely engaged a little bit early here, but let's see how the reaction to the to the Reaver Scarabs is. And it seems like it's actually no reaction, no splitting whatsoever. The Reaver's showing the potential that it has against M&M, and in fact it's just M in this case, because the first medic only now arriving a little bit too late, very similar to the Zealot situation earlier, I believe that was a case of engaging too early, and that's something that has been discussed at length in the various AI discords, is the decision making of AI of when to engage and when to not, how catastrophic it can be when there is even a slight misdiagnosis of how well a fight can go. If you force yourself to press on, you know, your winning rates go down tremendously. So as a result, it is usually recommended to exercise caution and ball your army up, even at the expense of loss of ground, or at the expense of taking advantage of a winning position. But in this case, I don't see a winning position for Hans Bredberg at the moment. The Reaver is doing a fantastic job, but again, maybe it's because of the fact that Thomas Sarry is being very cautious. And here's Hans Bredberg. He's like a hometown hero for me, I feel like, because look at this, the production facilities forward and tech forward, right? The instant expansion to like 5 bases, right? Out expanding against the Protoss player, just being blatant with it. This is just super cheesy. I hope you don't scout this territory. Something that I absolutely love to see, and actually the Obs is going to get a glimpse of that. I wonder if there's going to be a reaction, but we have an engagement first. Just still one Reaver, though. I would have expected perhaps more Reavers out in the front might be nice, and now we see the infamous Ghost Beam coming out. If they have lockdown, that could be incredibly useful too. Let's see, do we have nuclear silos going up? Not yet, it seems like, but there is 2 places where they can go up at this point. Another engineering bay randomly placed. And it seems kind of like a tug-of-war battle in the middle right now, neither player choosing to commit too heavily, even though Thomas Sarry probably could at this point. Still very low meta count in the middle. It's mostly Ghosts and Marines here, probably due to the gas cost, but it should be noted that gas is quite high for Hans Bredberg because of the fact that it's on 4 of them. Adding nuclear silos are being made right now, as we can see here. And I feel like Thomas Sarry is going to be in for an unpleasant surprise. Although it should be known it does have observers, so that's quite nice. Would be able to take out any ghosts that are cloaked within vision. Command center coming up for Hans Bredberg behind the nexus of Thomas Sarry. Thomas Sarry is going to become available. Aware of that now, and there we go. Now we have the mass lockdowns. Fantastic. Mass lockdown into nuke. What? Oh god. Like, I don't care if Hans Bredberg is not the strongest AI in the scene. It is by far one of the coolest and one of the things that I like to see the most. And look at that aggressive nuke. The Ghost is right there. The Obs have been taken out. Oh my god, this one could be massive. Oh my god, this one could be massive. Oh my god, the 2 Reavers go down, and now the M&M is going to absolutely Shrek here. Scan going down on the Dark Templar. The Dark Templar are going to go down as well. They're generally effective. Nuke going down on top of the Zealots, which run away immediately. But that actually, oh my god, that was actually a tragic decision there, because in its attempt to avoid the nuke, it spread its army so thin in a circle that the Zealots actually took a favorable engage there. And here we go again. The tug of war continues. This is like a super advanced version of what's called, is it Nexus Wars? Yeah, there's a... No, Desert Strike. Desert Strike is a UMS that where you just build production facilities and they make the units for you, and they fight, and the AI fights against each other automatically. It seems a little bit kind of like that. Oh my god, is this Reaver gonna go down too? No, it's running away. Didn't even take damage. Wow, surprised by that. Looks like Thomas Sarry has located the base of Hans Bredberg and the bottom here, and is going to try to send some army to attack. But as soon as it does, it's being pulled away. The observers get taken down again. I would be so pissed at this point. And nuking armies that are not stationary does not seem to be working out for Hans Bredberg. But oh, the army does come back into the nuke range a little bit, still engaging nicely against the M&Ms. I'm so glad I decided to cast this game. Oh, another oh my god, 2 nukes. Wow, look at the coverage. It killed so much. 3rd nuke even. Wow, this this is incredible. I mean, what can you really say? Just I feel like I'm doing a disservice to this game by saying anything on top of it, because Hans Bredberg is just such a freaking boss. Major props. And also he never cancels the nukes. He always follows through. He's like, but maybe something can run in there. And now it's a mad dash to try to defend this base. This is where the nuclear silo is. We need to defend that base in order for us to launch more nukes. Oh my god, is this where is that nuke? I hear them, but I don't see them. Is it here? Because that might actually be no. It's defensive nuke that doesn't hit anything. Arbiter's now out. Another nuke being sent out from the dying. What's called the dying nuclear silo. Where is that nuke going? It's going here. Oh, caught a couple of units, not enough. And some Thomas Sarry is pushing in. Hans Bredberg production facilities look fantastic. Thomas Sarry actually maxed out at the moment, but looks like maybe 80 workers is a great number to have in PVT. Production is just maxed out. That's the only reason why. And Thomas Sarry is actually one that I have not seen too much of. Oh my god, defensive nuke. Dragoons looks like they're getting wiser and trying to run away. The fact that there's buildings that are operating as obstacles and keeping them in place there is really hilarious to me. But Hans Bredberg losing so many bases now. And this is such a massive army. Oh my god, another defensive nuke. Will the defensive nuke hit these zealots? No, the zealots make their way out. There's just not enough targets to keep them. Oh! Wow, no, just barely missed it. Yeah, if the army is occupied, it seems like that is the best chance that they have. But the cloak goes... Oh my god. Another one. Another one. And Thomas Sarry is going to take down these bases eventually. It seems like arbiters are just being used to attack mostly. It doesn't seem like they're being used for any cloaking or stasis or spellcasting. Certainly not swagging out on the level that Hans Bredberg is. And Hans, I don't know how they held on to this base, to be honest with you. There was a zealot here earlier. I saw that. But I'm just waiting for the nukes, to be honest with you. I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. That command center is finally going to go down, as well as the nuclear silo that was attached to it. No more nukes coming out from there, and Thomas Sarry showing why standard is standard, why just straight up PVT, muscle toss with one Reaver at a time. Zealots, Dark Templar, and Dragoons should win against Eminem, but at the same time, Hans Bredberg showing us why swag is forever. Winning is temporary, swag is forever. That's I fully believe in that. Unfortunately, no nuke to be expended here on these Dragoons here. That could have been quite juicy, and perhaps that was a contributing factor before as well, why the Zealots might be trying to protect these Dragoons. Fortunately, they're not going to get cleaned up. There was a desperate rush to get there on time, but never quite amassing enough army. Only 18 army out on the field now, never getting quite that Eminem ball. That could challenge this army. Zealots finally running into this base from Hans Bredberg, and I mean, there are still mineral lines available for Hans. 58 workers still running and active, it seems. No island bases being taken, but that's to be expected. It's something that has only recently entered the AI scene. Hans Bredberg, more knockdowns here. Oh, just so gorgeous to look at. I love seeing this. Jeez, this is what Brood War is all about. This is... oh my goodness. The earlier TVT that we saw was fantastic. Like, don't get it twisted, right? That was what I was considering using as a thumbnail for this video, but now that I've seen this, how can I choose anything but Hans Bredberg? You know what I mean? How can anyone choose anything but Hans Bredberg? I feel like there should be like a swag competition, kind of like one of those NBA All-Star, like dunk competitions. I feel like if there was a dunking competition in the AI world, Hans Bredberg would be a front runner for sure, because of just the way that he just commits. He just commits to it, and I'm just such a fanboy right now. I really can't say much more else about it. You know what would be interesting if he included not just the ghost with the lockdown and the if there was the inclusion of EMP and blinding from the medics. I feel like those three spells combined can just wreak havoc on a Protoss. But one thing to note, actually, 114 army supply from Thomas Sarry, and a lot of it is in Arbiters, which are not great combat units. They're great for support, they're great for spellcasting, but they don't really do much damage. It's mostly Zealots now. If Hans Bredberg could get an army combined in some way somehow, but no, it seems that because of the fact that the production facilities are spread out all over, like they're never united in any one place, and because of the fact that it's been relying so heavily on the spellcasting ability of the ghosts, when they pop out, they don't have enough energy to cast lockdown, and as a result, they're not able to take down quite a lot. But actually, as I say that, the arbiters are going down in number, although I'm not sure if that's entirely beneficial, because more dead arbiters means the production of more army, although as always Thomas Sarry is maxed out, producing 2 arbiters now, 1 reaver, and still is allowing mining here. I just keep seeing his army run in here and then decide, nah, we're not going to do that. Just keeps getting distracted by something else somewhere, which is quite funny to see. And is, I can't believe to say this, but is actually mined out of its side of the map, whereas Hans Bredberg still has money available. This Nexus not even mining. I mean, to be fair, 14,000 minerals is a huge bank, but given how hesitant Thomas Sarry has been in terms of taking out some of these bases, and in terms of the engagements earlier in the game as well. I mean, look at these idle probes. They don't even recognize the fact that they need to go over here to mine minerals. I think that there is a way here for Hans Bredberg, the swag master, to actually pull something off here. And although, to be fair, as probes go down, so should the army rise for Thomas Sarry. This is actually quite a common situation in TVP, not the nukes and the lockdowns, but the fact that Protoss has a huge bank but is mined out. Terran doesn't have a bank but is mining, and it all comes down to the numbers. How much can the Terran retain? How much can the Protoss still produce from the minerals that it has left in the bank? And so far, only 1,000 minerals spent, and Hans Bredberg down to 60 supply. I feel like actually, even though I thought there was a chance, I think now we're seeing that the writing's on the wall. And Hans Bredberg, I would be hard pressed to imagine it winning. And considering the fact that it's constantly hemorrhaging SCVs too, last few mineral lines are much lower than I anticipated as well. This base maybe finally is going to go down, and I think that might be the end of Hans Bredberg, unfortunately. In this game, the Hans Bredberg circus is no longer operational, and that's possibly a name I'll save for next time, because I do want to make the name of this report reflect the Schnail 24/7 stream that you guys saw at the beginning of the video. But yeah, this was just, it was just a sight to behold. I'm gonna speed up the cleanup now. I mean, there is still some production going on, but it can't be more. I lied. I was about to say it can't be interesting, but it is still going to be interesting. Of course it is. It's Hans Bredberg, and you can sign me up as a Hans Bredberg #1 fan at this point. Yeah, well, with that being said, I think it's quite safe to say that the game is over now. Hans Bredberg mining out the last few mineral patches. I want to wish you guys a fantastic day, a fantastic week, fantastic month, year, everything, alright? Hope you guys have a good one. I hope to see you guys again next week. I hope you guys check out the links in the description below for the various Discords, for the Schnail stream, and for Fire Bad Heroes games against the top AIs, and seeing what a monster he is from his perspective, and how monstrous the AI that he faced up against are too. There were a lot of funny moments from the videos that I saw, so I really hope you guys check those out. This has been Chobo Swaggins. Thank you all so much. Really just having a blast here. Have a wonderful day, guys. Take care.